Limping around with Achilles tendon pain for months or even years, you're not weak. You're just following the wrong plan. I'm a Marine vet, doctor, physical therapist who's helped thousands rebuild stronger. I'm Ray Peralta, and today I'm going to walk you through my 7-step method to fix Achilles tendon pain fast, drug free, and without endless clinic visits to the physical therapist or the doctor. So I worked with everyday athletes and veterans around the world, including an Army Ranger who couldn't even jog or go for a long walk without pain. But in just 12 weeks doing virtual online, he went from sidelined to running 5 miles in 35 minutes pain-free. And if you stick with me, you'll learn the exact 7-step method I use with my clients to get their Achilles back to full strength. We'll cover how to confirm it's really Achilles tendon pain, versus ankle pain, something else, the lifestyle tweaks that cut recovery time in half, and the proving strength and power progressions, and finally, how to get back to running safely. Because a lot of sports also involve running. Even if you don't like to run, but you want to play other sports, many sports involve running. So step one, confirm it's really Achilles tendon pain, right? So when you're dealing with pain in your ankle or your heel, you have to determine, hey, where is the pain actually coming from, the actual location? Because so many times people think they have Achilles tendon pain, but it's actually an ankle joint problem, or it's actually coming from the lower back. So questions to ask yourself, right? Is the pain actually in the tendon, right? So you feel the Achilles tendon. If you're not sure where the Achilles tendon is, right, you look up the anatomy, the Achilles tendon, but essentially behind your lower leg, that portion of tendon, and it goes into the heel, inserts in the heel, and you kind of poke around and see where you feel the pain. Is it, tenderness to touch at a certain spot? You could usually pinpoint the pain, and it's usually localized to the Achilles tendon. Like, you shouldn't have multiple pain spots, up the leg, radiating into the thigh. Like, if you have thigh, upper leg pain, toe pain, like the whole pain's like a radiating line, and it goes into the butt, that's probably lower back pain. It's probably low back going into the Achilles tendon. And likewise, if your pain is actually in the front of the ankle, it's less likely that it's Achilles tendon pain if the pain's located in the front of the ankle joint. So also determine, like, hey, is there swelling or tendon, like swelling around the Achilles tendon? Sometimes the tendon itself actually feels thicker or swollen. That's another indicator that's Achilles tendon pain. And that if stiffness or soreness first thing in the morning when you get out of bed or after sitting for a long time, that the Achilles tendon is particularly sore or stiff. And also notice the onset. When did the Achilles tendon pain start? Did it start after a sudden spike in activity? Like maybe you went from working a desk job for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden you decided to play a pickup game of basketball, or you decided to take up running. You go for your first step, and boom, you felt that Achilles tendon kind of pop or tear. That's like, okay, a big indicator that, hey, it's the Achilles tendon, and it was related to a sudden spike in activity. And other times it happens like just overuse. Maybe you're doing a running plan, and then after a couple of weeks, you start to notice the Achilles tendon pain starts to come up. Maybe just the volume kind of ramped up a bit too quickly, but you weren't really paying attention, and then that's another potential cause as well. And for some older folks, it can sometimes just happen walking and just taking the wrong step because a body's kind of under too sedentary, and then just take the wrong step, and then that can also trigger Achilles tendon, pain or tear or tendonitis. So I worked with an Army Ranger veteran who had all these signs, but kept getting brushed off doing, pain meds, taking ibuprofen, we called Ranger candy. But once we confirmed it was, mid-tendon Achilles tendon pain, we built the right plan, and that made all the difference, right? Because he kept thinking, okay, I'll just rest, take this Ranger candy, the ibuprofen, and then come back to it. And then it would just boom bust cycle of the pain coming back. You rest, pain comes back. So step two, you also want to manage the pain early if possible, right? If you catch it early, avoid uphill walking or soft sand. Try to take a temporary break from like running or jumping activities, especially if it's, more moderate to severe pain. Like if the pain shoots up like 5 out of 10 or more when you run or jump, then it's a good indicator, hey, we got to scale back the activity. You could do alternatives for cardio. We'll talk about that. But in general, you want to keep the blood flow going in the tissue in the ankle. So do ankle pumps, is just dorsiflexion, plantar flexion of the ankle, 20 to 30 reps after walking or waking up in the morning upon waking, or sitting for a long time. And you can also put a heel lift in your shoes to temporarily reduce the load on your Achilles tendon. So when you go walk, which helps offload the Achilles tendon. And then once your pain calms down, you could tolerate a bit more. It's more in the mild category. You could take the heel off and go walk in your normal shoes. So these simple adjustments is what allowed my client to keep training safely, and also help reduce the recovery time. A lot of times people skip this step, right? They go just to the exercise portion of it, but then they still have a really long recovery time. You also want to follow smart rehab guidelines, right? So if your Achilles tendon pain is more insertional, like closer to the heel, or it's actually after a rupture, like you went to a doctor, they confirmed you had a Achilles tendon rupture, you have to start very slow, right? 6 weeks at a low level, starting with isometrics, just kind of pushing the foot down against a TheraBand or the wall, slowly build up from isometrics to concentric ease, but very slow progression. And then from like sitting to standing. And this might take over like 12 to 16 weeks or even longer. Now, if the Achilles tendon pain is more in the mid tendon, like the middle of the tendon body, you could typically rehab in 8 weeks to 12 weeks. And you could just start with the standing versions and progress from standing on a flat floor to standing off a step, like two-legged calf raise off a step, and then single leg calf raise, and also adding like a weighted vest or weighted backpack, about like 5 to 10% of your body weight. And then also you want to maintain your activity, right? So aerobic activity, that is. So you'll take a temporary break from running and jumping, but you can still bike, you could swim, you could walk, you could roll, assuming that sometimes walking flares up some people. So even with walking for certain types of people with Achilles tendon, they actually have to just go to biking. But essentially you want to keep your aerobic or cardio 30 minutes at least 5 times a week. If you're a bit fitter, yes, you could do 45 minutes or even an hour. But again, just monitor your pain level. And if you have like no pain, then for the example, the bike, then it's safe to go for like an hour if you need to. But again, for now, just skip the high impact running and jumping until you're later down in the rehab. You've built up the tendon a bit stronger, usually around week 12 or so. And this phase gave my ranger vet who I was working with a way to stay fit while healing, and he didn't have to like gain weight or get during sitting on the sidelines, because sometimes people get injured and they completely rest altogether, or maybe they'll do some rehab, but they let their fitness slip and they start gaining weight, they start getting fatter, which is going to slow them down and put more stress on the tendon. So step 4, then we want to build up the tendon strength. We talked about this section just earlier here, but again, the progression for most people, it's usually standing on the floor with 2 legs, right? Up with 2 legs, slow and control, like 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, or even 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down. If that's too hard, you could regress with a sitting version, 2-legged calf raise, and then add like dumbbells to your upper thigh for the sitting version. But then once you're past the sitting version, again, back to the standing version, and you do it off the step. And with a load, you just get your backpack and typically start with 5% of your body weight and then go up to like 10% of your body weight. And usually that's enough. Some people may have to go up a little higher, but very rarely do you have to go up to like, 20% of your body weight or so. And then essentially you want to do couple sets, space it out morning and evening session, like an 8-hour gap in between. So in the morning, do like 3 sets you start with 10 reps to begin with, but then as that becomes easy, there's minimal pain. You go do 3 sets of 15, then 3 by 20 reps, right? Or even 3 by 30 reps. And then again, you do that twice a day. Every week or 2, right? Make the exercise a bit harder and follow this progression for 6 to 12 weeks. Right. So with the progression, again, we could add more reps. You could add more weight. You make the backpack heavier. You could go from 2-leg to single leg, and then from the flat floor to a step or a ramp where you're getting more stretch on the Achilles tendon. And follow this progression. I've done this with many people. In about 8 to 12 weeks, most people are healed. Again, there's certain exceptions. Some people may take 16 weeks or longer, but for the most part, the average person following this type of progressive tendon rehab, especially if the tendon pain is in the mid portion, can rehab in about 8 to 12 weeks. Right? With my Army Ranger vet, that's what we did. We also tracked his calf raise numbers, right? How many reps he did this week, and so forth, how much weight he did in the weighted backpack, using the app because we were working together online. And then seeing his strength, his numbers improve was a big motivator for him. It kind of made it like a game. Okay, step number 5, you also want to add power training, right? Or explosive or plyometric strength to your Achilles tendon, right? This reactive tendon strength. So one way is to do speed or fast calf raises, right? A fast up, an explosive up phase. You could put your hands on the wall and kind of explode up on your toes. You could also then do pogo jumps, or just kind of bounding up and down with your knees straight, stiff legs, up and down in the Achilles tendon. You can also jump off a trampoline. Like if we use a trampoline in case that jumping off a floor is too much pressure. Like if it's too painful to jump off a floor, you could also jump off jump on a trampoline, because the trampoline is going to be a lot softer. You're going to have more rebound. But once the trampoline is very easy, there's minimal pain. Then you could go from trampoline to just jumping off the plain floor. Yes, you could put like a rubber surface on the floor, so it's a bit gentler on the landing. And then you can also do weighted jumps, right? Weighted squat jump. You can also do a depth jump, jump off a box, and then rebound to build up that elastic tendon strength. Especially important if you're someone who wants to sprint or play like basketball or any other types of jumping sports. And also even just want to run, having this explosive reactive strength is going to improve your performance there as well. You may want to start with like 3x2 reps, then go up to like 3x3, 3x5 reps. Sometimes certain exercises you may be doing, like the pogo jumps, you might do 3x10 or 3x20 reps. Again, it depends on the exact power exercise variation you're doing. And you can experiment. And obviously, if you're unsure, work with a physical therapist who works with athletes as well. Someone like myself as well. And I work with people online. But anyhow, with my veteran, Army Ranger vet, his tendon started feeling springy again, right? He started getting that bounce back. And he felt like he got his Army Ranger legs back, just adding this power training. And there's like another 4-week training block to add this to his cycle. We kind of did it concurrently with the strength training as well. And then return to run readiness. Like, how do we know you're ready to return to run, right? Test your strength, right? It should be 90 to 100% of the other leg. For the ankle, it's usually the single leg calf raise. Can you do slow and controlled 25 reps? If you want to be extra sure, you could also test your 3 to 5 rep max on a single leg calf raise. So you could hold dumbbells, a weighted backpack, and see, okay, can you do your 3 to 5 rep max and compare side to side that you're able to lift the same weight side to side. And that's going to give you additional information aside from just a body weight calf raise test. The body weight calf raise test, again, is just doing about 20, 25 reps, 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down with a tempo or metronome, and making sure you're able to do equal amounts of that 20, 25 reps left to right side. And then hop testing, right? It has to be 90% of the opposite side. So you could do a single leg hop, right? Compare the distance, like single leg hop for like a broad jump for distance, single leg hop, triple hop, right? And then crossover hop, right? So you do the triple hop on a single leg, see how much distance you cover. Crossover hop, see how much distance you cover. There's also a timed hop, see how fast you clear. I believe it's like a 9 or 10 meter test. You can look this up. This is called the 4-stage hop test. They also do this for ACL rehab recovery tests. Like, okay, can you pass these 4 hop testing as indicator that your leg is kind of has the power side to side. You just compare the distance or the time that you completed to see that you've achieved it. So also want to make sure that there's no swelling or pain after certain short jumping or running drills, right? There should be like minimal pain or no pain. So, okay, hey, if you start getting swelling after you go for a long walk, it means your body's probably not ready yet. Or if you start noticing you get moderate pain or more after, a short run or a walk or some jumping drills, again, that means you probably need more time to heal. Probably take another, 4 or 6 weeks to continue with the rehab process. See, when my Army Ranger vet passed these tests, he knew he wasn't just hoping, he had the proof that he was ready to progress to the next level. So then once we passed that return to run criteria, we started doing a run progression, run walk intervals, started with, my Army Ranger vet was a bit fitter, so he could jump ahead. But for the average person, I say, okay, start with week 1, run for 5 seconds, walk for 55 seconds. And then you start making the run portion longer. Then eventually maybe you're doing run 30 seconds, walk 30 seconds. With my Army Ranger vet, since he was a bit fitter, we started with like running 2 minutes, walking with a minute, and then doing that for like 20 minutes. And then progressing to 30 minutes. And then eventually he was doing nonstop running. And then by like week 12, he was running 5 miles in 35 minutes with no Achilles tendon pain, right? We're having to commute to different doctor's visits or physical therapy clinics, and without having to rely on pain pills or injections. And we did this all online. So to recap, so the 7 steps to Achilles tendon fix, right? So you could kind of fix your own Achilles tendon, treat your own Achilles, confirm that, hey, you actually truly have Achilles tendon pain. Obviously, if you're unsure, work with a doctor, physical therapist, make lifestyle tweaks. Smart rehab, usually, again, it takes about 8 to 12 weeks. Sometimes it may take a little longer. Again, consult with a doctor or a physical therapist. Build your strength gradually. Add power, right? This is the plyometrics, power training, drum training. Pass the return to run test and do a smart run walk progression. Right. So if you need additional guidance on how to run pain-free, check out my free training link in the description. So I wish when I initially was dealing with pain and injury after leaving the Marine Corps, my early 20s, I felt stuck in the broken medical system. I wish I had someone like myself to kind of guide me through this. So if you found this useful and want additional tips on fitness or injury rehab for veterans, leave a comment below on any type of content you want to see, and follow me as I post practical solutions every week.